Okay. All right. Good evening. It's Tuesday, May 27th, and this is the City of Stoughton Finance meeting, and I'll call it to order. Everyone is here, virtually or in person, and so we do have a quorum, and I can certify we are in compliance with open meetings law. Does not look like we have any public comment. Any communications from committee members? Presentations? All right, we're blasting right through this. So next item is approval of the minutes from 5/13. Would that be? Yeah, 5/13. Yep, that's right. So I'll entertain a motion for that.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Brett.
Second.
Second by Lisa. Any edits, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. And reports. Lisa.
There's nothing major to report, just noting that there is still the negative cash balance with the TIDs. What is reported in the reports does not consider that the property tax revenue has been recorded for the year. So that amount is actually less. We'll have additional expenses yet this year, but just make a note of that the property tax revenue has not been recorded. Otherwise, we'll have some budget amendments for retirements in May, nothing to report in April. Room tax again, True by Hilton has not paid their fourth quarter from last year or their first quarter of this year. We have received others, and the only one that we haven't received elsewise is the Expedia, but they may have nothing to report or submit.
Lisa, even though we've got we do have the ARPA budget report that's in here, because there have been several questions asked around like here and there about different pieces in that, could we maybe just get like another rundown, not in this meeting, but maybe in a council meeting of where we're at with spending of ARPA dollars, as well as what balance we have left over?
Sure, we'll add it to the next meeting.
Great, thanks.
I know that True last year was late on paying their 2024 Q4. Do you know offhand if they've ever been late in 2 successive quarters?
I am not aware.
Okay.
I have.
Okay.
They have before. This is not the first time they've gone 2 quarters being late. I think last year they paid both in June.
Thanks, Nicole. Any other questions on the reports? All right. Then the next item is, entering into agreement with Ehlers. So let me pull that up quick here. So this is a agreement to enter, it's a resolution to enter into an agreement with Ehlers for annual TIF reporting.
By statute, the Joint Review Board is supposed to review the TID annual reports that are submitted to the DOR. The reports are due by July 1st, and they have been submitted in the past. However, the Joint Review Board has not been reviewing them, at least for the last couple of years, to my knowledge. And these reports, what they do is give you for the previous year revenues, expenditures, fund balance, just in summary, what expenses and revenues you expect to have and where it expected to end up with. So what this is requesting is that Ellers assist in coordinating a joint review board to review these annual reports, as well as provide a supplemental report. So the TID annual reports speak for 1 year, and in summary, future. Obviously, audits are historical too. So what this will do is provide a cash flow like you saw when Todd presented at the council. We'll see that every year. That continues to be updated with the most current information and project out any future increment as well as a projected close date.
Any questions on this?
Actually, not a question. It just looks like there's maybe some typos. Some of the whereases have some extra letters, I think, in them. So maybe just a correction for the final copy.
Okay.
Usually the biggest challenge is just trying to herd the cats. So we're trying to, we had some dates that were out there, but that was a few months ago. So we're trying to see if those dates are still available, especially for Dane County. The treasurer is really the most difficult one to get. I mean, obviously, I'm pretty readily available. Dr. Keyser is in town. The chamber is also a member, and then you have somebody from Madison College. If nothing else, they usually will meet virtually. So we're just really trying to get that date established, and we need a resolution in order to move forward with that.
All right. Any other questions on this? If not, then I'll entertain, do we do motions for this too?
Yep,
Entertain a
for the
motion
resolution.
for approval of the resolution to pass it on to council?
I would move to recommend approval to council.
Okay. Motion by Lisa,
I'll second.
second by Adrian. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we will pass that on to council. Next one, and I imagine this is why Chief Ripp is here, is a resolution to amend the 2025 budget for ambulance repairs. Chief Ripp.
So included in your packet was a memo from me for looking for $40,000 authorization for repairing of our ambulance. So we have 3 ambulances stored, and the routine process has been we buy one every 5 years. Currently, we're in a delay because the one ambulance took forever due to COVID. So hopefully mid-June we should see that one here and in service. Consequently, though, our 2017 that we purchased has really gotten hit hard. It's currently got 150,000 plus miles on it, and corrosion due to the state of Wisconsin and all the salt that we have has really taken a toll on it. So we want to send it down when we get the new ambulance in service, send it down right away, get all the work done on it so that we can still keep 3 ambulances here that are ours that we're familiar with. Then at the end of the summer, when this one comes back, then we'll finally dispose of the 2002 ambulance that is our 3rd in line unit right now. The money is coming from stuff out of funds out of the enterprise fund for EMS, so there's no tax money that will need to be affected. It's just authorizing using money that we've got in our contingency funds as it sits. So I would entertain any questions.
Curious on how many miles the 2002 rig has. Do you know offhand?
It has, that one has 85,000 miles on it. The 2012 currently has, I think that turned 105,000. This is all also indicative of the call volume going up and the fact that we're going to Madison more often on our trips, just because people are sicker or they just have preferences to go up there. There's a whole lot of factors in there, but we're going on more trips and they're longer distance too. So chassis-wise, I don't see any issues with the chassis making the 15 years, but the body definitely, you can see a lot of corrosion around the doors and everything, and we just want to make sure that everything is secure in the back between the door frames and that the rig looks in good shape too. So,
Chief, and how's the supply line for new ambulance? Because, you know, this is like, what, I don't know, a three-year saga. I
right,
think.
it's a whole lot better. We can get a chassis in very short order. We'll be ordering the next one here this year and paying for it out of the ARPA funds, and then the expected delivery of that unit is looking to be about the end of 27. So we're trying to delay the purchase as long as we can, so that we don't lose warranty time on the chassis before we have it all ready to go, because it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months from when Horton receives it till they're ready to go with it and ready for us to use.
Great, that's encouraging that we
Yeah.
can get. Now, what about
Yes.
what about fire trucks?
Right. That'll be a future meeting.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, then I'll entertain a motion for this resolution.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Brett.
I second.
Oh, second by Tanya. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We'll pass
Thank
that
you.
on.
Yep.
You bet. Next item is to amend the 2025 budget to sponsor the Juneteenth event. This came as a direction from the Common Council on April 8th to spend $2,000 towards the Juneteenth event. Did you want to speak on that, Lisa, or Tim?
No, just the budget amendment is using fund balance.
I just had a question,
Lisa.
might be, I'm not sure if it's for the mayor or for the finance department, but, so since this was passed before the election, just a process question, what if this resolution didn't pass? Because the council had already approved the money, so I'm just curious about that process if the resolution did not pass.
Well, we'd have to more than likely look for another source to fund it, or we'd have to go back to the group and tell them that, you know, even though it was approved, the funding's not available for it. I don't know what else we would be able to do. I mean,
Any other questions?
Not really a question, but since I wasn't on council to comment, although I did send an email, I guess I would just like to be on the record as saying that I'm super uncomfortable with this. you know, no disrespect to the former alder that requested this or the event itself, but, you know, given the budget cuts, you know, there's a lot of people who have food insecurity. Medicaid is likely going to get cut. The free health clinic is probably going to be seeing more people. You know, the food pantry, the hats, the housing sorts of organizations. I'm just very uncomfortable that this got to the front of the line and nobody else had a chance to ask for this funding. It seems disrespectful to those other organizations. I'm going to vote no because I just don't feel good about it, because I feel like we're turning our backs on other people who are deserving as well. So I guess that's the.
I'm going to agree with Lisa on this one. I mean, I did not vote for that in the council resolution also. I just think that it's not a very equal opportunity as far as being able to fund groups. There's lots of deserving groups out there that would be for that, so I will also decline on this one.
I was in the same boat. It was a difficult vote that evening. It was one of the more difficult ones that I've given in council. And for the reasons that not a commentary on the event itself, but on the process by which it was brought to us. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to move this to council.
So the council already approved doing this expenditure. We need the formality of doing a budget amendment. So while I understand you're against spending this, it's already been approved by council. It has to happen, and we need the formal budget amendment to move forward.
But we could vote no, right? So I guess where I'm coming from, one of the alternatives, and I don't know if this is right or not, and I'm not sure that council will agree, but I didn't approve it in April. So there's a lot of organizations that are having to scramble, that have had their legs cut out from under them. So I guess I still want to vote no. If I'm told I have to vote yes, I don't know why it's here. So again, that's maybe a process thing, but I'd make the motion, but I'm going to vote no if that makes any sense. So I don't know how all this, transpires after that, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Adrian?
I'd be willing to make the motion. I did originally vote yes on this. I have since I've rethought some things and agree that I don't like how the request was brought forward and that it was not a fair and open process. But given that we're very close to the event date and council did approve it, I would move to recommend approval to council in these final weeks before the event takes place, considering the group is probably now depending on these funds.
And as I understand it, Mr. Mayo, from what you said, and Lisa, what you said, we're spending the funds because the council approved it. It's just a question of where do these funds come from at this
Yeah,
point?
if we don't do a budget amendment, then we'll just probably be negative potentially at the end of the year. You know, so more likely, depending on where we land at the end of the year, it's, you know, it's either gonna come from the fund balance, or if we're in a surplus, the fund balance amount will be less that amount anyway. So as Lisa said, it's more of a formality. But certainly, you know, we can have a deeper discussion going forward on what we want to do. And I know we've had that discussion in the past, so I certainly, you know, respect where you're coming from, because it doesn't really seem like much of a process.
Ozzy?
In other words, regardless, if we move this forward, they're gonna get the money one way or another, so there's no use. Yeah, okay. I'll second the amendment.
And a process question, Tim, probably for you. Does this move, it's on the council agenda, does this move even if we reject it, or does it?
Yeah, anything that goes through the committee, whether it's passed or not, goes to the council for their final consideration. So we've had items in the past that have gone there, you know, even though we didn't have support at the committee for various things. So it wouldn't be unheard of.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
No. So it's 3-3.
Yeah.
That'll be reported back to the council then.
You know, doesn't really matter, you know.
Yeah, you don't break the tie in committee.
I could, but it's pointless. We can just take it there 3-3, let the council figure out what they want to do.
All right. Item 11 is a resolution approving an affordable housing extension through TIF District Number 3 to benefit affordable housing and improve housing stock within the city of Stoughton.
So what is before you is just a discussion, possible action. For reference, is a resolution from 2019 when TID 3 was extended using the Affordable Housing Extension. A program was set up, well, 3 programs really was set up to use those funds. To my knowledge, they haven't been used. The balance is about $242,000, just under. The 3 programs within that was one to do home improvements up to $2,500 with no payback of that. The second was for first-time home buyers, where you could get assistance in your down payment up to $5,000. That was deferred, interest-free for a maximum of 15 years, or if other situations like selling the home would occur, and then that would become due. The third is for remediation assistance, so asbestos or lead-based paint or other projects that would be approved by council. However, no more than 25% of the increment value that went into the affordable housing could be used for that type of program. So what will be coming forward is TID 4 is going to close within the next year. You do have the opportunity to do an affordable housing extension for that, which would bring in about another $252,000 available. So what we're looking for is some options or recommendations of either updating and improving the programs that we currently have or other situations that you may want to see. We can use this towards infrastructure of any future TID development. However, it does require that that development, if it was a mix of affordable housing and market rate, 75% of that development has to be affordable housing. So know that that is an option for the future. If you want to discuss maybe using some of these programs, but maybe increasing the dollar amounts that are currently in there. We could also work with the Becker Professional Services, as they've assisted other communities with options for these funds. So just looking for some direction or discussion on what we would want to see using the affordable housing funds.
I mean, I remember when we had, when we did this, won that or extended that PID out for the year in order to get these funds in there. And I'd always kind of wondered what happened with the dollars that were in there. So they must have been sitting in the leprechaun's pot somewhere and waiting to be used. And then if we have this additional one that would add more funds in there, then I think that we should work with the bones of this program and add a few more, maybe, like you say, tweak some of the dollar amounts in there, maybe clarify in some of the areas in which it could potentially be used, because we know in the 6 years since that housing hasn't gotten any better cost-wise. So let's see what things that we can do for this. That's what the money is put out there for.
Oh, you can go ahead.
No, Lisa, you can go.
And maybe you said this already, were there applications for this? It seems like we had a discussion about just the process and application and administration, and it seemed a little bit cumbersome. I don't have a good recollection of how this was going to be implemented, so I was hoping maybe you have some info on that. I know you're just kind of stepping into it, but I didn't know if there were any notes behind it, like even is there been any money withdrawn or?
There has not. My conversations when Dave was here was, how would they access it? And based on my conversations with him and some of the folks in the lending industry, they said really the best thing to do would be to have the lender request the money through the city and let the title company make that part of the closing somehow. But I don't know if we have a formal application for it. That's something that we could develop. But I think one of the barriers has been, I think we had a maximum of the $5,000. I think that if we were able to get more funds in there and maybe bump that up a little bit, maybe we would have more participation. And there was some other funds as well that went to Greenspire for some remodeling. That money's gone. And of course, we did the tax credit deal in order to remodel the rest of them, basically. So there were some additional funds that were split out for that as well, but those funds have been exhausted.
Yeah, and I feel like this is, I mean, I like the whole idea, and I remember that's where we were headed here, but I just remember going down sort of some rabbit holes about how do we make sure the work is done? Does the contractor get paid after? Does somebody inspect it through the city? It was just all those sorts of things, and I don't recall if that was set up or how we
never formally set anything up, but I think we could have an application, and in that process, I think we would, try to put as much work as we can on the lender and the title company and not the finance department. If there's a way to do that, we can maybe talk to some other communities. There's been other ones that have the same program or something similar, and we can find out how they're operating their program. And then the other thing would be is the marketing of it. It's been a little bit of word of mouth. We could probably be more aggressive with that as well.
Yeah, that's what I remember. A couple years ago, when I was new, I'm still new. We talked about that, and I remember DJ asking about how aggressively we market it. And we even talked back then, $5,000 as a down payment. I mean, it's great. But housing costs haven't gone anywhere but up in the last 2 years either. So I'd certainly be open to discussing higher thresholds.
Yeah, so if that's what you want us to do, I think, that was really the basic thing. The resolution, I mean, we don't have to pass it tonight, do we? Or
That's just a copy from 2019 because the program was included behind that. So
Yeah.
it's just the historical one from TID 3, housing, affordable housing extension.
Okay,
So
so
just a reference.
this is really in anticipation of TID 4.
Well, right, we have the TID 3 money sitting there that hasn't really been used. We'll be looking to add TID 4 affordable housing extension and that money added. So kind of brought up, okay, well, what have we done with the money? Anything? Should we look to change it, knowing that we're going to have TID 4 affordable housing extension?
So I think we're probably looking for some direction. If you want to continue the program, potentially we'll be adding to it. Sounds like there's an opportunity to look at the amounts, talk to other communities, put together maybe a process for accessing it. Anything else?
Well, just a question, because I forget without my little sheets, which TID is 3 and 4 and that sort of thing.
4 is the downtown TIF.
Yeah,
So the first downtown TIF, there's a new one now, but the other one, at the end of this year, it'll be completed, but we can extend it with a simple resolution, I think you told me.
Correct. Just a resolution, just like what you have in the packet.
I think, I mean, I like the idea of potentially using it maybe for some infrastructure too, if it's helpful. But maybe it would be helpful to me if at a future meeting, we could say, okay, here's some of the specific things we could use it for and where. So maybe, maybe it is a down payment, maybe it is some repairs, but maybe it's also infrastructure. I'd just be interested to know exactly what we could and where, so I could make an informed decision.
Yep, so when I am talking about the infrastructure, that would actually be what the city may incur, helping getting new development up and going if we have costs for road or other expenses like that. We could use some of this money towards that rather than just having that expense. However, the development that's going in would have to be 75% affordable housing.
Yeah, another example is we've been talking through an agency through the county about a land trust opportunity. So the county had budgeted some money for the land trust, and we've been kind of waiting for the rules to be written to see whether or not Stoughton could qualify to be part of a program. So it's possible, as Lisa mentioned, that let's say we found an infill and they needed to have some utilities or road work done, that we could help provide the cost of that, or we could help purchase the land or those types of costs, and then partner with the land trust, and they would actually do the build out, and then we might even retain ownership of the land, and it's kind of a program that's more for a first time affordable program, and then eventually they can graduate out of that, and then we go to the next generation as they kind of trade up into their future homes. So there's some possibility there. I'm not really sure if the county has the rules worked out. I know they do for the habitat rules. It took them almost 2 years to hash them out, although they felt like once they got those rules done, the land trust would be a little bit more streamlined process because there's a lot of similarities. So that's another option. If you want, we can see if we can get more detail on that. We did have one initial meeting with somebody from Madison that does these types of things, and those could be single family, it could be a pocket neighborhood, it could be multifamily. There's all sorts of different types, condos. So
I'd like to know, what our options are so we could spend it wisely. That's my thought anyway. Thank you.
So this TID 3 expired or closed in 2019, and then we extended it. How far can we extend it before this 242? What happens?
The affordable housing is a 1-year extension. So you get to collect the increment after the close, 1 year of increment, and that money is used for affordable housing.
And there is some current legislation in the budget where there's an effort to try to extend that to 2 or 3 years. Whether or not that makes a cut, we don't know. We certainly, with our lobby, we're advocating for that because we think it's a good program and it would create additional resources. And we can certainly keep you up to date on that. I don't know when the budget's going to be passed. I've heard anywhere from potentially July or August most recently, which is a little bit concerning for us for our own planning. But sometimes some of those types of items, we might know ahead of time they'll either make the cut or they won't. So we'll continue to follow that as well.
So in terms of direction, how detailed a direction? Right now, I think we'd be interested in understanding some opportunities for infrastructure, maybe restructuring the dollar figures a little bit. What other direction?
The down
be
payment
looking for?
assistance, if you want to continue that, and if you do, what that would look like, or if you want us to, go into another area maybe that we haven't tried. I'm not really sure what that would be. I don't know if we want to be in the development business, but you could certainly look at that as well. And we'd have to approve our own stuff.
I'd like to know if some of the other communities that have employed this type of program, over the last 6 years, if they've come up with any other clever ideas too of how they're able to use this money.
Yeah, if there are communities that have done it successfully, what have they done as a comparison, and look at a gap analysis there.
All right, I think that's probably all we need, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then the final item on our active agenda is the school resource officer position. Chief Jenks.
Hit the button there, Chief. There you go.
Back on?
Yep, you're
Okay,
there.
Thanks. Included in your packet is our various documents outlining the position. I'll just kind of gloss over it, and then if you have questions regarding finance, et cetera, I'll be glad to answer those, or attempt to anyway. So the whole effort here has been to restore a full-time officer in the school system. So we, again, going back to 2020, we had a contract with the schools. At that time, the contract expired. We have been working with the school for actually about 3 years now, and it has come to this, I'm pleased to say. You can see that we've come up with a draft contract and a draft job assignment. The plan right now, the hopes, is to have a police officer in the schools in September and actually beginning the job in July. To have an officer in the schools, we have to backfill, or should backfill, that position on the road. So that's one of the considerations. So in essence, we would be adding a position to the police department. Chair Butler, do you have any direction? I wasn't sure from the financial aspect what you guys wanted to talk about. I know Lisa had provided the numbers for the position. The draft indicates a 50-50 split between the school district and the city.
And that's something that's kind of an ongoing conversation to simplify it and get things going. That's kind of the starting point. They've left the door open for future discussions if we can identify some other revenue sources, which, could be grants, it could be, stuff from the DPI that we're looking at. You know, maybe the school district can come up with some other sources, or maybe even we could. And I think the main thing, and you'll hear it at the council meeting, the superintendent will be there and you can get probably into more details. I think the biggest thing for this group is to understand we would like to start this summer and fall so we can begin some training and be ready for the next school year. I think, Chief, you have a plan for the balance of this year financially, and really the difficult part of the decision is knowing that we would be going into the budget cycle with a committed position for next year. You have the estimates in there, I believe it's about 65,000 for our share.
62,
64, 4,
Yeah.
12.
well, 60,
Yeah.
okay, thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we would be, committed to that much, and it's a little uneasiness because we don't know exactly what is in store. I know Nicole Marie and Lisa have been working on some preliminary budget items, so we can feel a little bit better about making that commitment now. I think the bottom line with me is regardless, we're going to need another officer as we grow. If you look at the numbers, we're at the school district really often, and we'd like to be there even more, to be more proactive and try to build trusted relationships with the students, the staff, and the administration. And I think this is a good way to ease into that. We've noticed there is a trend where a lot of school districts did let their agreements expire, and now they're reinstating them. Verona, I think, is example.
Yeah, Verona's right where we are now. Just a little ahead, they have the position approved.
Yeah. We're not necessarily looking for you guys to make a decision tonight. Kind of the way it's setting up is we're trying not to get ahead of the school board. So we wanted to at least get it on your radar. We've mentioned it to the council. There's a personnel committee meeting coming up. Actually, there's a public safety meeting coming up
Tomorrow night.
which we're going to talk about the public safety committee, about the ins and outs. And then next week, there's a school board meeting and a personnel meeting the same night. We're hoping that we get an endorsement from both of those groups, and then we would bring it back to here and the council at the next council meeting, looking for a recommendation and potentially an approval. In the meantime, the city attorney is still looking at working with the other attorney to make sure the language is the way we want it. But I think we're fundamentally there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was some changes made when we met at personnel, and there was some ideas there, particularly like how to out of the contract. We wanted more of a guarantee, and this now outlines how it will last the entire school year with that opportunity at the end. And it clearly defines, like, if there is some difficulty, some concerns, how we would meet and try to, come to a resolution and avoid that. So it still remains a 3-year contract.
So I think we're here tonight just to kind of take the temperature of the room and see if you have any questions or thoughts before we continue to move forward. And that's basically what we would be doing at public safety and personnel next week as well.
Appreciate the work that you've done, that the superintendent has done. Certainly appreciate a 50-50 split. I think that's wonderful. So I'm in support of continuing to move forward, for sure.
Thank you.
Brett?
Yeah, I'm supportive of this too, having been on the school board side of it when it was originally approved. The only thing that I would like to see a little bit different in the contract would be in the reporting structure, or not structure, the reporting time interval in it. It's only an annualized reporting as far as to like the governing bodies of it. I'd like to see that per semester. That way you'd have the opportunity at, like, say, a winter semester, like you could find out earlier if something's not working or not going quite right, and you can make that adjustment before the next semester begins.
Makes sense.
Otherwise, I thought the structure of the agreement looked good. That was about the only place I could see where it'd be an opportunity to catch something or improve on something, or, that was it.
Okay.
You're back to semester finals.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other comments or thoughts, questions? Okay. Thank you, Chief. So then we have future agenda items outlined. So for the June 24th meeting, 2024 audit presentation and CIP debt issue reports, it looks like, and then some dates to be determined for TID 4 extension, TID 4 termination, and TID 7 project plan amendment. And then the ongoing question of a levy limits discussion. Any other items that we need to consider? Brett?
Lisa, I can't remember if we had our calendar, or at least tentative dates set for when we're doing CIP, looking at those things. I know they would be like August, September dates in there. If we don't have them, maybe get those out sooner than later so that people can plan around that.
Okay.
And a shameless plug for not the last week in August.
Yep.
Got to move my kid to college for the first time.
Didn't you call in last year?
I wasn't on CIP last year.
Oh.
Anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.